It's caucus time.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I had to take it today. Of course I'm going to steal it.
Well, I wasn't going to do the same bit 2 weeks in a row.
No, we can't do the same bit 2 weeks in a row.
No.
We have to have variety around here. Oh, boy. Welcome on in, everyone. It is unauthorized caucus time. It's noon. It's Thursday. So it is, in fact, caucus time. Mm-hmm. But
we are your hosts, Mason and Ryan.
Mason and Ryan. I forget we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Because not everyone sees us, and also we don't even throw our names up on the screen anyway. So, but that's right. Mason Mohan and Ryan Haidt coming at you here, and I'll remind you, we got a lot of different things churning. If you are currently watching us on the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles Rumble, make sure that you go and subscribe to the Unauthorized Caucus Rumble. You'll find it by searching that. We're over there, and that is where we are going to be moving exclusively for the sake of trying to compartmentalize things and have it a little bit more streamlined. So don't forget to make that leap. You'll also find Unauthorized Caucus on Facebook, on X, and I don't think we'll be streaming on those, but we will make sure and post the Rumble link every place we get an opportunity. That's where it is. And then, of course, go to unauthorizedcaucus.com. That's where you can sign up. Make sure you get the email notifications. If you're one of our podcast listeners, nothing changes for how you get this, except you are also welcome to go to unauthorizedcaucus.com. Sign up there. You'll get the notifications as an email. We're going to start trying to do some more with that and cultivate more things behind the scenes, a few more different opportunities than just the one live stream / podcast every week, because there is so much going on, especially as we march toward the election. That's why we're doing all this compartmentalizing. Phyllis Schlafly Eagles is getting busy, and then every different facet of it, Ed Martin, the Pro-America Report, here what we're doing with Unauthorized Caucus is getting so busy. We want to make sure that it stays nice and clean and everyone can be subscribed wherever you want to each of the pieces and also not get confused or locked into all the other things. So make sure you go there, unauthorizedcaucus.com, sign up there, and then also subscribe to the Unauthorized Caucus Rumble channel. That's going to be very important. Very, very important. And yes, there is a lot going on. I see Mason's jumping into the chat there, making sure that everyone has the right Rumble link. So click on that and subscribe. But in the meantime, we're going to continue going everywhere we always have been as much as we can. I saw Facebook is changing. You can't just stream on Facebook anymore without, I forget what it is. You have to have one of the Meta business account, whatever it is. I don't trust Meta as far as I could throw them. So I'm not really interested in that. We will keep our Facebook account open. We'll post the Rumble link. And then to be completely honest, on X, they've just moved over and are asking for, you have to have premium status, I think. You have to have a premium paid account to be able to stream. We may not be streaming on X anymore. I don't necessarily mind giving Elon my money now that it's going straight to Trump.
Yeah. Or
but
I don't know if it is. I don't think it is.
Is it not? Did that get retracted?
No, that was fake news. I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Elon responded to somebody tweeting that out and said fake news.
Interesting.
So
I saw that
it is up
several
in the air.
places.
Yeah,
okay.
I did too.
Well,
there were lots
we'll
of
talk
articles
about that.
It. It might be fake.
It might. Well, I tell you what, there's been a lot. Okay, well let's get past all the niceties. You know where it is. Unauthorizedcaucus.com. That's where you'll find everything. Make sure you subscribe to the specific Rumble. Stay subscribed, of course, to the Phyllis Schlafly Rumble because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on multiple places. You'll find us on YouTube too, but we don't want to talk about it. That's like the ugly, the thing in the corner that we don't want to talk about. It's YouTube. They're terrible, but we'll be there. We'll be there as long as they'll let us. We'll be there. So that is it. Now, nothing has happened this week. So I don't even know why we're live streaming, right?
It's the biggest nothing ever happens week.
Yeah, it's the biggest nothing ever. Well, okay, if everyone's not aware for some reason, this week was the Republican National Convention, the big week. Last week there were committee meetings and such. This week is the big week, all the nominating speeches. Trump chose JD Vance as his running mate. Last night, JD Vance officially accepted the nomination for Vice President of the United States to run as a Republican. Tonight, Donald Trump does. There's all sorts of people speaking tonight. I'm seeing it's confirmed that Elon Musk is going to be there, maybe speak. I'm seeing it confirmed that Hulk Hogan is going to speak. It's a wild time to be a Republican. Yeah. I don't even know. And all of this is capped off by last Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, there was an attempt on President Donald Trump's life. An assassination attempt and a bullet that missed his head by mere, as much as it burns me to use the metric system, millimeters away from him and grazed his ear and took out a chunk.
But your ear is part of your head.
Your ear is part. He got shot in the head. He got shot in the head, and he has a tiny little MyPillow I'm sure Frank, I'm sure that Mike Lindell put it together.
Yeah.
Frank's speech is what I would say. I'm sure Mike Lindell put it together just for him. It's over there. No. But that kicked off a whole new conversation. And then yesterday, in the period of just a few hours, we see this Biden, who's supposedly getting all of the pressure to drop out, says, I'm never going to drop out. Oh, I'd only ever drop out if there was some sort of medical reason I had to. And then 5 hours later or something like that, it's announced he has COVID. And then an hour later, there's a tweet that he is reportedly asked, do you think Kamala Harris could do the job? I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gone. He's out. But these are all the things we have to talk about.
Yeah.
So where in the world do you want to start? Do you want to go back and talk assassination first?
Yeah, let's go in like order of time. Okay.
Chronological.
So assassination. Where were you?
By the way, this is the Secret Service. Velveteen Rabbit's reminding us. Where were we when the Secret Service interrupted a rally because Trump fell?
Right. Yeah.
So if you watch CNN, that's what you saw.
Yeah, Velveteen's been watching CNN.
Yes. Here's the deal. VR. You need to get off MSNBC. No,
the media is unforgivable for their sins. But where were you? What were you doing when this happened?
And that's the thing. This is one of those moments. There was an attempted assassination on a former president of the United States / major candidate. I mean, the last time this happened was Ronald Reagan, 1981.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's only been four. There've only been four. I mean, there's only been 46 presidents, 45. There's only been 46 presidents, so to say. And 4 of them have been assassinated, and there have been a few more attempts. This, though, is, I mean, here's the deal. It is one of those moments. Where were you? And literally, we were walking in to a big restaurant to do a surprise birthday party for a friend. And we were supposed to meet at 5:30. He's coming at 5:45. He watches. It's not a surprise anymore, But we're all gathering. So we're like, we'll be there early just to make sure we can hide from the main entrance. 5:15, 5:20, we pull into the parking lot, Central Time. This was what, 6:11? The first shots hit, 6:11 p.m. Eastern. Within 5 to 10 minutes, we got inside. I opened up my phone, and we're killing time waiting for everyone. I opened Twitter, and there's my X app, and oh my gosh, what's going on? And then Ed started texting us. We were and it just went from there. I spent the rest of the evening, ran and grabbed my battery, because sure enough, the phone, so I had to get my external battery. And it just took off from there, trying to figure out what in the world happened. And it was so weird to be in a big sports bar restaurant because there was one tiny little TV with Fox News on in the corner of the room, in which they were behind everything I was seeing on X. And then the rest of the walls were all the different games and different things going on. And it was wild to know what was happening. And yet I was in the middle of a place where it was completely off the radar for everyone who was there without their devices, just to be with other people.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy. It is a very surreal moment to think about. But that's where we were. Where were you?
I was hanging out with my 4-month-old. It was just me and him. Everybody else was gone, so I was looking after the baby. And so I wasn't really on my phone, but I, looking every once in a while, and I saw the text from Ed saying, we need to get an email out right away to pray for Trump over what's happened. I was like, holy crap, what's happened? Like, did he die? I immediately got on Twitter, or X.com. And in my entire feed was just that picture. I even had to take a screen recording. It was all that picture of Trump with the American flag. I thought the mugshot photo was iconic.
No.
Rest of the evening, just like watching videos, I was in shock like the rest of the night. Every spare moment getting on Twitter and seeing what was going on. And the story just keeps developing, and it's lots of weird stuff. I'm very hesitant to say that this was like a part of a deep state conspiracy plot. I mean, okay, first of all, there's like the blue and non libtards that are like, Trump staged this. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, that's absurd because, okay, who would be like, yes, I will participate in this false flag event where I get shot and killed, and B, like, you can't stage, like, missing by that much.
No, I was about to say.
You can't.
John Wick's not real. He's only in the movies. Missing by that much on purpose is literally impossible.
Right.
And at this point, as much as is in question about who was where, what happened, when, and how, and everything else, one thing is abundantly clear. From somewhere in that direction, whether it was this 20-year-old kid on that roof or something, whatever, someone from that direction was firing high-velocity rifle rounds. It struck and killed one individual. It struck and wounded 2 more. I think 2 more, right? Two ended up in critical condition that were behind him. And I mean, we all saw, if you go, use high-res pictures, you can see literally a little chunk out of his ear and blood running. It was real. There's no blood pack, none of that nonsense. It was real.
It was.
Now, who did it? Fine, conspiracy, but
we know who did it.
Yes,
it was
it
Thomas Crooks.
really happened, and it 100% could not have been staged. That is way too risky. And also, there are no question marks or pieces that line up for me as to like, well, this is weird out of Trump world. That doesn't pass the smell test. None of that is there.
Right.
But there is plenty of it for the deep state.
Yeah.
Plenty of it for the deep state.
So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. I mean, you look at the more news reports that come out. There was the cop that saw the guy getting up there, and Crooks pointed the gun at the cop, so the cop got down because like, oh, you know, you need to have like a stable position to return fire or something like that. You know, I asked my cop friends about this, and they were like, no, this is BS. You know, the procedures, standard procedures, and all that. Like, okay, whatever. Like somebody has a rifle on, we're going to get banned from YouTube. Somebody has a rifle on a roof aiming at the former president of the United States. Like, that is not something where you're like, let's make sure we follow the standard operating procedures. Let's deliberate for an entire hour. Let the president go on stage. So it's very strange because what we know for sure is that there was gross incompetence from the Secret Service. Now, was there gross incompetence because they are just straight up incompetent? Because we live in the age of DEI where all of our institutions are failing? Or was this purposeful incompetence where somebody said don't take the shot because they had orders from on high? We can't know that for sure. The regime's now trying to tell us it was Iran. Iran was going after the president. We should invade Iran. Yes, invade Iran. Sure. Do it. Like, okay, like, no, let's not do that. That's obvious BS. That does not pass the smell test whatsoever. Thomas Crooks was not an Iranian employee going after Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. So do not take this bait that, okay, we need to invade another Middle Eastern country. And also, why would Iran do this anyway? Because, sure, they hate Israel, but Trump is the peacemaker. He was the peacemaker over his 4 years in office. In another 4 years, I think we're going to see a resolution to a lot of the conflicts around the world, and I don't think Trump would want to invade Iran.
Bottom line,
I don't buy that.
There is so much that doesn't pass the smell test at a much more local level. I have no, the shady behavior starts and, in my mind, ends here in the United States. It has nothing to do with foreign possibilities. Make no mistake, there's probably foreign leaders who hate the United States, probably hate Donald Trump, want Donald Trump dead. But it's one of those, like, if all of the suspicious activity is going on here in the House, on this board of Clue, why am I looking outside the board when literally all of the very possible pieces are right here and everyone's acting suspiciously? Yeah. This is what we handle first. And if someone wants to talk about an outside source but not answer or address any of the questions of all of the domestic suspicion, then I'm out. That conversation I don't want to have, because this is the first thing to eliminate. It doesn't look like anything else, quite frankly. So I mean, we could go on ad nauseum about this. In fact, I opened up X and I'm looking at another graphic here, another 3D rendering of what was put together. And so much of this really doesn't necessarily line up. See, and that's the thing. I'm looking here, like, there are several things that do make sense. People talk about, like, the video of the two Secret Service counter snipers that you see, and it doesn't look like, they don't line up with the gunshots and this and that and the other. No, they don't. It doesn't look at all. In fact, you see one guy come off of his scope, which if you're used to, rifles of any kind, you have a magnified optic, you come off to get your bearings because it's a very narrow field of vision. Even the nicest scopes still only have a few degrees. Like, if you want to see the surrounding, you come off. Well, if a policeman, which at this point, that seems pretty obvious. There was not one on the roof, but this was outside the Secret Service perimeter, so it was local policemen who were around. If no one was on the roof, two guys went over, one boosted the other one up, and he pulled himself up over the roof to look. Kid turns around and points the gun at him. What do you do dangling from the roof? You're not going to grab your radio or your gun. You're holding on with two hands. Let's go. Falls 8 feet, gets onto his radio. This is when the kid hurries, turns around, and starts to take his shots. So if there's a commotion and you're watching something that seems suspicious, but you haven't had a gun, in your sights yet or something, I could easily see where, you come off your scope and start looking like, wait a minute, what's going on? I need a wider field of view. But then the rest of it doesn't line up. Well, there's a Secret Service counter sniper team 2 roofs over to the right of that video. These are the guys, by the official story, which again, I don't buy everything, but some parts of the official story line up with videos. Fine. Those are the guys who apparently took the shot. Now, what I'm seeing in this graphic is that it took actually 26 seconds from his first shots before the threat was neutralized, which that's a long dang time. And the shots I don't even think took 26 seconds. We were just listening to him today to try to figure out, hearing the difference between maybe an unsuppressed rifle and a suppressed rifle, and were there 3 and then 4, or was it 4 and then a break and then 3? There's all kinds of stuff all over the place. But bottom line, there's a hole in security that should have been filled. Someone should have been on that roof. And people like Dan Bongino are saying from their sources inside Secret Service, the plan always was for someone to be on the roof. Why no one was there and showed up for that job, no one can seem to answer. So, I mean, what? Did someone get paid to not show up for work that day or something? Like, what happened?
Right.
Because that was in the security plan. There was supposed to be someone on that roof. There were counter snipers over here. There were counter snipers inside the building, apparently, another team down inside the building. But there was supposed to be someone on that roof. So, I mean, I would tend to say, oh, that's Hollywood glamorized stuff. What, do they just pay someone not to show up? Well, we live in the land where conspiracies are real.
Yeah,
it's true.
I also do lend a lot of credence to just like the extremely basic incompetence of the Secret Service in this situation, though. I mean, because you look at some of the videos and look at some of the transcripts of what was going on, there were quite a few female Secret Service officers, and people have different opinions on this, especially in the age of feminism and third wave feminism, but we're Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. We understand that there is a difference between men and women, and Phyllis always stood against putting women in the draft, because there are basic physical differences between men and women, and they also handle pressure extremely differently. So you look at the transcripts of what was going on, it was like female Secret Service officer is saying, "What's going on? What are we doing? What's going on?" Whereas, you can hear on the mic in the video, like the male Secret Service is like, "We're moving on you. Okay, shooters down." Yada yada. Very direct. And then there's the video of that one Secret Service lady unable to holster her weapon. She's trying to like, what is going on here? What kind of security do we have protecting the former president of the United States and likely soon to be president of the United States? That is so that does lend credence to the okay, these are just incompetent people.
Right. Well, and at this point, we too, and again, we're kind of going into the nuts and bolts. I want to back out and talk about the actual, the real conspiracy part of this that's real. There's no theory, it's just conspiracy. But we already know, you and I have both talked to someone who shall remain nameless. I love anonymous sources. When you have the anonymous sources, they're fun. But when you don't have the anonymous source, they're annoying. But we know someone and spoke to them who has a friend who works for Customs and Border Patrol, which is one of the divisions of Homeland Security. Secret Service answers to the Department of Homeland Security. And this individual that works for CBP was, in fact, pulled up to the event, the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and their comment was, this was the C team, maybe. It was a hodgepodge of people. It was not the regular full rotation of Secret Service folks that Trump has. There's one guy we see in almost every photo because he's right next to Trump. That guy was there. But all these other ladies that you've never seen before, they aren't the ones who are normally with the regular Trump presidential protection detail. But everyone, obviously, you have to rotate people on and off. People had to take time off. But also there was a Jill Biden event nearby. We're hearing the possibilities that they were moved there. Just the fact that this is who they put on for this rally, who decides that? The Secret Service. These were not the A team. This was the C team at best. And the surrounding apparatus was filled in, not with the regular, robust Secret Service and this and that, the other. There were a lot of other DHS temporary assigned employees and agents, which is all the uniformed guys who come up with full kit and gear. These are all DHS employees and agents, but they may not regularly be on presidential protection level events. So if they've just pulled in it's a small rally in Butler, so it seems, we've assigned all of the second and third stringers to this because the A guys have a rest or something. It's a very interesting coincidence. And then you leave that security perimeter with all the police outside and supposed to be this, and that, and the other, which these folks, bless their hearts, we love local police, but this protecting a dignitary like this is not their normal wheelhouse. So if you've assembled a team very purposefully for one specific event, where none of the regular protocols are as beefed up as normal, you've created yourself a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads, I mean, yes, there's a lot of blame to go around about the specifics, but that leads us to, so then who created the opportunity and put it together?
Right. Well, it might not have even been on purpose. I mean, I hesitate to say that this was a deep state conspiracy to take
I believe
out.
this is 100% a deep state plan to take out Donald Trump.
I just don't think we have the evidence.
I think it's bold and in our face.
Interesting.
Literally, they tried to, I mean, they indicted the man, they've tried to bankrupt him, they've tried to imprison him. The next logical step was to just kill him. Mm-hmm. And they missed by millimeters because he tilted his head at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Again, no shooter's that good to accidentally, purposefully, miss by that millimeter at the head tilt. No. This was the next step. I think we've known that for a long time. Mm-hmm. People like Roger Stone have talked about this. I just talked to Alex Newman on an interview yesterday. People like Roger Stone have talked about this for years. This is the inevitability of where they're going. And whether the deep state people, the shadowy people, hire an assassin or not, they have fomented the violence and hatred of their own people to make it an inevitability. All you have to do is purposefully let the guard down and something's going to happen. Whether they hired an assassin and this kid's an MK Ultra plant or all the different things you could go down the rabbit holes of, or if they just opened the door and left it open a crack, knowing the kind of hatred and division that they have sowed across the nation, they are still at fault and they are still behind it. In my mind, I believe without a shadow of a doubt. But that's not all. We had a very fun text thread running around last night, but there are too many key points that show people knew something was coming. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get into. Well, do you want to talk about the short?
Let me go back and look at.
You talk about the shorts. I'll talk about the camera. Neither one of these are necessarily the smoking gun, but holy cow, if it's not smoke, and basically a gun. So it's. I mean, anyway. Essentially what happened is last week there was a huge kerfuffle over DJT land, and that's with the $, which is the market code for Donald Trump's media group. This is what's behind. Devin Nunes is the CEO of the Trump Media Group. This is what's behind Truth Social and the company, essentially, the publicly traded company. Mm-hmm. So on Friday, do you have it pulled up or do I need to have
I got it.
Okay, on Friday, something big went down. Do you want to break this down and explain it in the layman's terms that you possibly can?
Yeah, so there's this company called, what's it called again? It's called like Austin Capital or something like that.
It's Austin Private Wealth.
Austin
LLC.
Private Wealth LLC.
And by the way,
Texas-based.
Just so you know, we're about to, for the next few minutes here, compile a bunch of information and say a bunch of things without showing you all of the business filings. They're there.
And this is why you need to be signed up for the email
list.
list.
You need to be signed up for the email. We have both gone through and made sure we're not just like repeating random things from the internet. When someone says something, we've gone and actually, oh my gosh, these connections are real. This really exists, and this person really is on the board. All the pieces that are being put together, we're not just repeating the internet.
Right. Okay, so Austin Private Wealth LLC bought put options, which if you're not into finance, a put option is essentially you are purchasing the right to buy a stock at a lower price than it's already at. So you're expecting for it to go lower than that, or to sell a stock for lower. Essentially, it means you think the stock is going to go down. And so this Austin Private Wealth LLC shorted 12 million shares of DJT stock, which is, so that's, you divide that by 100 and you get 120,000 put options on DJT. This was their largest position they had at this moment. This is an extremely huge position because options are extremely expensive, usually way more expensive than a stock itself. One option is, on average, maybe 100 times as expensive. Finance guys can quibble with that, but so they were expecting the stock to go down a lot, and they bought this on Friday, right before the market closed, or before the market closed for the weekend, expecting the stock to have been plummeted to the ground by Monday, because that's what you do if you buy a giant short position. So somebody thought that something was going to happen to hurt Donald Trump's company over the weekend. And something almost did happen. He almost died.
But I mean,
that's very odd.
You put it all together. Did you say the total number of the total dollar amount? Because someone had done the figuring on this. Essentially, this is tantamount to like a $1 billion bet. Essentially, or I'm sorry, no. This company manages $1 billion in assets, and this is their biggest put option, the largest put option that they've ever done. And I think the next closest on this specific day on DJT was like 16,000 shares, and they had 12 million shares. But whatever it was, I saw somewhere someone had the number of what possibly was there. It was literally, it's tens of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars worth of a bet that for some reason, after Friday, July 12th, DJT, the Trump Media Group, would tank.
Yes. What also makes it weird is the Bush family has been connected to this company before. HW was a client, received investment advice from them. W spoke at their events and has been involved in their charitable initiatives. So just weird. I mean, I don't think that this was a... it's conceivable to me that if there was a deep state conspiracy or somebody thought this was going to happen, then the Bush family would know about this because they have been extremely tied to the deep. I mean, they practically are a member of the deep state. Them and the Clintons, they are buddy in the deep state. So,
I mean, if
there's not enough information for me to draw any clear conclusion about what's going on here. It's just very strange. I mean, it's like you hearing about the giant insurance package being taken out on the Twin Towers right before they fell, stuff like that.
People shorted the airlines on September 10th.
Exactly.
This has happened before.
Yeah.
On September 10th, 2001, there was a massive short on airlines. I forget exactly which airlines, and it wasn't the same group, obviously. This I don't think this one was created until 2006.
Yeah.
But there was a huge short on the airlines. What happens? We're selling off a bunch of stock, expecting to be able to buy it back really low. You are expecting something to happen that tanks the stock. This happens the day before 9/11, just like it happens the day before an assassination attempt on Trump. This isn't a coincidence. There's no way this is a coincidence. It's not possible in any logical sense to look at it and go, well, that's super weird. No. It's super purposeful. Absolutely. And the Austin Wealth Management, this is a not savory group of people. In fact, the one thing I got to go and double check, and I know I saw this big, this big fund. I'm pretty sure it's got a lot of connections to, and I need to double check. But the SEC Holdings report, I saw connections to the Soros Management Fund, the Soros Advisory Group, and BlackRock. Shocker.
Well, that's not shocking. I mean, BlackRock holds
I know, it's complete sarcasm. By the way, if you're listening on the podcast and you didn't see me look at the camera when I said that, shocker is a very sarcastic thing. These folks are all tied in. They all make money together. They all do business together.
Right.
So I'm not surprised to see Soros, BlackRock, Bush's, and a host of other names all together. That doesn't mean any one of these people is specifically behind a plot to potentially assassinate Donald Trump. But all of them are wrapped up into the same financial dealings, and stuff is shared. So that's the question. Who seemed to know something was going down on the 13th? And then that implies there was something to know. There was something afoot. And then also, as another side note, this is just one of those weird things. I saw someone post, and I wondered, this famous photo now, well, there's a lot of famous photos from Saturday, but the very famous photo now with a small streak, you can see the actual blur of the bullet in a single frame. What do you got?
Okay, so I went to their website. They have a notice on their front page that this was a typo. That the correct holding was 12 contracts or 1,200 shares, not 12 million shares, as was filed in error. In submitting the required report for the second quarter of 2024, a multiplier was applied by a third-party vendor that increased the number of shares by a multiple of 10,000 for all options contracts, not just DJT. We did not catch the error before approving the filing.
On the 12th of July.
It's weird.
Yeah, okay. Nope, not buying it. Don't care. I've been lied to before. I don't care. I just, still, you can't convince me. So here it is. And I have too much common sense. Sorry, folks. You can't convince me.
Their diverse team page is taken off the internet for some reason.
Oh, shocking.
Page not found.
So here it is. The famous photo where we have in frame this blur of the bullet that supposedly struck Trump's ear, which it looks, I've seen this from the beginning. A lot of people said, oh, this is fake, it's photoshopped. I don't know about that. Something just seemed weird about it to me, and I wasn't sure what. But I just took it and moved on. This is by Doug Mills, very, very well-known New York Times photographer. In fact, he's been around for a long time. You may remember another famous photo of his. We talked about that last night a little bit. Very famous photo of his was the photo of George W. Bush being leaned into by a staffer in a classroom, being whispered to what had just happened the morning of September 11th, 2001. That's a Doug Mills photo. Famous photo the world over. This guy is connected. He's at all of the major stuff. He has been around to many of the major things. This is his photo with this supposed bullet in it. Someone brings this up, and of course this guy draws his conclusions, but I have questions. He says this is very unusual to be able to capture something like that moving that fast. He said it's very unusual for a photographer to use a 1/8000 shutter speed, which, I mean, we're talking about like an 8,000th of a second. And I don't know my camera lingo as much, but using that at 30 feet per second in broad daylight, he said this is very unusual. Unless you are intentionally trying to clearly capture something moving very fast. And this is where I saw a lot of other people chiming in. Yes, NASCAR, sports games, like if you're trying to capture a touchdown or a 200 mile per hour NASCAR, you're going to crank your speed settings to something like this for shutter speed and frames per second so you can get a clear picture. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of use in general, photography that this would be used under these circumstances for a political event. This guy says if you're trying to capture, a bullet potentially striking someone, that might be in great detail a way that you would turn up your camera settings. So he says, I contend that this New York Times photographer knew something was going to happen. Otherwise, there's no reason to have camera settings in this configuration on these conditions. I texted that around to a few photographers I know, and all of them said, yeah, that is pretty weird, that you would have these settings on your camera under these circumstances. That's what you soup up for with sports events because you're trying to capture something happening very fast in a very clear photo. It's just odd. It seems weird. So there's one more of those, oh, it's just weird, but it's thrown in. There's too many weird things for me to believe the coincidence of one at a time weird things. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and this might ultimately be the kind of thing like COVID, 9/11, MK Ultra, all these weird things that happen where we don't get the full story until decades and decades.
And see, that's the thing, by the way. No one, I'm not making up these numbers. Again, you go and look and buy these photos from the Associated Press, the New York Times. They have all the stats. Someone went and looked at this photo from Doug Mills, the New York Times. It is quoted as being at 30 frames per second, 1/8000 shutter speed. That's the real number. So photographers can look at the number and go, that's weird. Why would you shoot at that? It's not like anyone's just guessing what the shutter speed is by looking at the photograph. That's available. Someone took the data and started talking about what that could mean and how it weirds. And the original guy that this got picked up from said, here's my mind dump. None of this makes sense. And he said, I was a special forces weapons specialist. This is someone who I've seen before, Michael Yan. I've seen that name quite a bit. He's got a couple 100,000 followers. It's not a nut job necessarily. He's got a following. That was his thing. As a photographer, I shot some of the most famous photos in Iraq and Afghanistan, substantial crossover knowledge between weapons and cameras. And my first thought is, I have never seen a trace shot from that angle. The second thought is, should this be possible? The shutter speed would have to be off the charts. Like, you'd have to know, I got to tune up my shutter speed to try to capture something. So he's the first one that asked the question. And it's a very good question, and then other people have chimed in. I took the screenshot and texted it to a bunch of people I know who know cameras more than I do. And they all said, yeah, if that's the shutter speed, that's really weird. I would never shoot at that in all those conditions that I'm looking at the event. So
someone should ask the photographer.
There's a lot. Well, we'll see. Someone should ask him before he gets unalived. I'm not suggesting anything, just what the deep state does, because they do be doing that.
They do.
Yeah, they do be doing that. So anyway, the whole thing, I mean, we could probably move on from this because we've spent
I think we should move on from this.
I contend 100%, that's not a small detail. I don't even know what detail it is. I contend 100% that this is the deep state has been for a long time. And by the deep state, I don't know specifically who by name or what agency by name, other than all of them. All of the people who Donald Trump represents a threat to. And that's not because he's the most conservative person or the most pro-life person or the most Christian person. It's because he doesn't need them and care. And so many other people, like the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, Chuck Schumer's, Joe Biden's, have needed that machine, that deep state apparatus to get into power, to accumulate wealth and influence. Donald Trump didn't need that entering into politics. He represents a threat. So all the things. Indicted, what did I see here? Slandered, investigated, impeached, indicted, convicted, shot. Won't quit.
Won't quit.
Trump 2024. Won't quit. And that's the thing. He doesn't. There's your why I believe him, that he's sincere about all of this, because otherwise he'd be, peace out. I'm going to go buy a yacht in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, if I had his money, I would not
don't need any of this.
Yeah.
So
I'd
there
be
you
living
go.
a very different life with his money.
I tell you what, though, there's a good opportunity. We're going to switch subjects, but the quote that I just gave is, in fact, a T-shirt at a wonderful company, and that's a big announcement for us today. You 100% need to know we have a brand new sponsor for Unauthorized Caucus, T-Rex Inc. T-Rex Inc. is awesome. You've heard us talk about them before. He's over in the Rumble chat right now. If you want to go and harass them and try to get them to do certain shirt designs, have at them. You know where they are. They're going by their name. I'm just saying. But you've seen us wear it before. Our Join the Revolution shirts with Washington. He did those apparently being inspired by one of our, I think if I remember that correct,
yeah,
something that we said
yeah.
inspired it, and somehow that, they reached out and let us know about it. So we each grabbed one of the shirts. Well, I bought some more shirts from this weekend, and there's a lot of awesome stuff from Trump coming out. The man in the arena, truly our own Teddy Roosevelt moment. I got a mug, Join the Revolution. It's on its way. And you can do that too. Head over to trexinc.com, and guess what? You, a viewer of Unauthorized Caucus, get to use Caucus15 as your promo code. That's going to save you some money. It's going to let T-Rex Inc. know that we sent you, and you're going to get some cool stuff. There are lots of designs popping up all the time that are literally spot on. You're seeing the Revolution mug go by right now. One of my favorites, though, is, if you haven't seen the cow, just look up, just get on social media and look for Secret Service and cow. You're going to find one of the funniest videos of a cow on a roof, because apparently the Secret Service can't deal with sloped roofs. There is a shirt for that. It's at trexinc.com, and you can get it by saving some money too. Use the promo code Caucus15. You're not going to be sorry.
Does that give 15% off?
It does. You get 15% off, and there may be, you never know. This is just the very beginning, the very, very beginning of what we're doing. 100%, this could be, I don't know, there could be a beautiful relationship here. There might be some custom stuff. There may be some Caucus viewers only stuff. You never know what could happen,
That'd
folks.
be neat.
So you want to save 15% and go support a great American company, American-made cotton, American-made shirts. I promise they're really good quality. I love mine, and I'm excited about the multiple shirts that I've bought from the Trump stuff this weekend that should be in my mailbox today or tomorrow.
I love mine too.
I'm excited.
Join the Revolution. That's
Join the
my
Revolution.
only one.
That's the only one. We're about to have a lot more because there's just great stuff coming left and right. So go on over, trexinc.com, and use Caucus15. You'll save some money. You'll let them know we sent you. And we appreciate their sponsorship of Unauthorized Caucus. We have big plans, moving and grooving, growing and going. I didn't even mean for both of those to rhyme, but they did.
All right, Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. I read enough Dr. Seuss books with my kids. I ought to be able to do that on the fly. There you go, T-Rex Inc. We appreciate their sponsorship and helping us grow. There's a lot. There is a lot to do and a lot of people to reach as we move forward to November here. So
now let's talk about your doppelganger.
The doppelganger. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
It has been brought to my attention. I got one of the funniest. Oh man, I should have pulled the audio. I got one of the funniest audio messages ever from a friend on Monday who saw the JD Vance announcement, and then Tuesday morning he was like, I saw the JD Vance announcement, and me not reading the names like I normally don't, I immediately messaged you and I was like, oh my gosh, how did you keep this a secret from me? I totally understand how you kept this whole vice presidential nomination a secret. I'm also mad at you. I'll never speak to you again. I just want a job in the Secret Service. I know I'm not qualified. I can be the guy in the limo who rolls up and down the windows. You need a window rolled down? I can do it. We need to run to Mickey D's? I can do it. It just can be on the down low. I don't think I look that much like JD Vance, but apparently there's a somewhat resemblance.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. The beard does a lot.
We both have a beard. We're both in our 30s.
I think the beard does most of the work, though.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, yeah. I don't think I've ever been more excited over a presidential ticket, except for maybe Johnson Weld 16, but that was a dark period in my life.
We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about your dark period in your life. Oh man.
Yeah, because Ryan and I had been talking for a couple months about like, oh, who do you want for VP? Who do you think should be VP? And like Ed had Ben Carson picked, and okay, what do you think of Ben Carson? What do you think of Burgum? JD Vance was always my preference. I just never thought it was realistic, so I was never really rooting for him. But like, holy crap, like this. Because, okay, this is obviously, like, Trump has chosen his successor for the MAGA movement. And Vance is great on policy. I mean, across the board, really. I like him.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. And I want to hear your takes, because there's a lot I want to say.
Okay. So first of all, this is, as we came down closer to the process, I kind of figured this was the direction we were going. Because Doug Burgum, I thought, had too much baggage. He was too much of a, I don't know, there was just too much there. I kind of, as we got closer, I thought it's probably going to be JD Vance. If it's off the list, it's going to be JD Vance. If it is, or I'm sorry, if he's choosing from the list, it's going to be JD Vance. If he just blows the list out of the water and picks someone else, who even knows? But I'm fine with this. I like JD Vance. I think that JD Vance has a very interesting, similar to Trump's story in that he came from the business world. Politics was often kind of transactional for him, not really some strong believer, which is why you see a lot of comments. And I know one of the first things that the America First world was like, no, JD Vance made really nasty comments against Trump in the past. And I'm like, well, when? And I go back and look, and I see 2015, 16, even 17, the first few months of actual administration, not just the campaign. And what he's saying is what I know a lot of people said, because they didn't trust him. They didn't think Trump was serious. They thought this would turn out bad. For him to say that he's an idiot, he could be the next Hitler. I mean, who knows at that point? If you didn't believe on the Trump train ideas, which frankly, I wasn't early to the party, Phyllis Schlafly convinced me that Donald Trump was the right way to go. I thought he was an unserious candidate. In 2015, I never would have guessed. I did not have the vision for it. Phyllis did. She was right. She convinced me. She convinced a lot of people. This is the way to go. I forgive that because I know a lot of people who were very against him in 2016 who became very for him in 2020 because of his presidential administration, who now, if you oppose Donald Trump or try to take him out from the political arena, I don't even mean the assassination attempt, they're out. They don't want anything to do with you. And these are folks who were against him in 2016. I have seen people I personally know make those giant leaps. I'm fine with that. I understand where he's coming from, and I'm not going to hold it against him. Because if anyone wasn't a believer, the 4 years that Donald Trump gave us in the White House ought to have made them. That's what it looks like. And like JD Vance said on the 2022 debate, someone asked him about this, and he said, everyone says stupid things. I've said my stupid things in a very public setting. I was wrong. I was wrong, and I take it back. And even some of the ones where he's like, oh, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary. There's even another quote someone pulled out before he ran for Senate where he said, well, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. So, like, yeah, we all say brash things, but he didn't end up actually going full never Trumper. Yeah. He just was a loudmouth, not on board. Guess what? Donald Trump's a loudmouth who doesn't get on board with people's stuff. I think all of the reservations are out the window for me. I'm not worried about it any more than I am anyone else. Time will tell. But as far as the possibilities, boy, I agree with Tucker. The right people hate JD Vance. Also, he said some pretty funny things. Like I think he understands the political realm from outside the political realm because he's been in it less, time than Donald Trump. And I think both of them have a very transactional understanding of politics that is good, that will help them stay out of the deal-making system. As far as the deep state side of it, well, we'll give you this. It's very much like, no, I don't owe you anything, but let's do this. Let's do this deal that needs to be done. And they're going to understand it from a great view. I've got too many things floating around in my head almost to get it in. I think that this ticket is exciting. I think that it's good electorally. I think JD Vance delivers the Rust Belt. I think he is a darling now of the working class of America. I mean, for crying out loud, the Teamsters president came and talked to the Republican convention for the first time in 150 years and praised JD Vance and Josh Hawley up and down. When did the labor people come to the Republicans and say, you guys are our people?
Right.
I mean, it's true. I know it. You know it. Even you know it. Yep. And you're a Gen Zer and you know that one. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry, that was mean. But, like, there's some wild stuff going on. I think he delivers the Rust Belt. I think he delivers some young people. The polling, I think, is going to try to tell us that, oh, he didn't move the needle for young people. I think that's bunk. I think he does. And I think that him being set up for 2028 could be really good. Could be really, really good. Also, a beard in the White House is a good thing. We haven't had facial hair in the White
True.
House since the early 20th century. It's been over 100 years, people.
What do you think about Vance Masters 2028?
Vance Masters? I don't know. I'm not sure about. I don't know who. Here's the deal. Can we just get onto this guy and figure it out without trying to figure out the next guy? We just figured out the next guy. Give it a minute, dude.
But this is anyway.
Anyway,
regardless.
Bottom line, I'm really excited. I have become more excited as more has come out over the last several days because I've seen more of his comments from the last few years, and I actually think that he gets it, and I think that any of the concerns people had, I look at them and see them as 100% legitimate. Someone changing their mind, I respect it. It's not one of the slimy, like, oh, well, I've suddenly made a 180 on this. No, there's a point to be wrong and then say I was wrong and change your mind. I can't see a place in which that has not been the case for JD Vance. And he has then not advocated for strong America First principles. He's the national populist vice president we need, just like Trump is our national populist president that we need.
Yeah. Well, I also think that Vance is right on the issues because Peter Thiel is right on the issues. And JD Vance owes a lot to Peter Thiel. Thiel funded his senatorial campaign. I mean, gave him more money than anybody has ever received in a primary for the Senate ever. Vance used to work for Peter Thiel. He got funding for his, I think it was Narya. Yeah, Narya, his venture capital company with funding from Peter Thiel. And I think Peter Thiel has great political instincts. I think that he cares about the future of this country, that he hates the bureaucracy, that he hates the deep state, and sees like, okay, well, our elites, the current elites we have in this country, are tearing this country down, and like this guy's a billionaire with the money to take a hit at it, and now he has his guy on the presidential ticket. So I think that's a fantastic thing. What's most interesting to me about JD Vance is he's very plugged into the intellectual conservative world of, you know, the professors and lawyers and thinkers doing serious scholarship about, okay, well, let's assess the American regime in a totally different way, in a somewhat non-post or anti-liberal way, which is the world that Vance draws his intellectual influences from. And I think that is a very good thing. I think that's a very refreshing thing. And I've just been reading hit pieces on JD Vance because they make me so excited. You know, the way these libtards are describing him. I mean, Vox had a piece the other day that there was something great in it, but that they're calling him the JD Vance is a man who believes that the current government is so corrupt that radical, even authoritarian steps are justified in response. He sees himself as the avatar of America's virtuous people, whose political enemies are interlopers scarcely worthy of respect. He is a man of the law who believes the president is above it. And this is a hit piece on him, but I read that and I'm like, yeah,
bring it on,
because this is something I talk a lot about on this. That okay, you know, we have to win and we have to defeat our enemies. Those are those might be the two most important things. And in many cases I put those ahead of principles because I don't think, as we say, your principles aren't going to do very much if you're losing. You know, and Vance is a sign that conservatives are moving past being beautiful losers that are just like, oh, we have our principles. I don't care if we're losing everything every day, because we have our sweet and pure principles, and I think this is a good thing. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I think so too. And honestly, I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction, kind of go back to Trump, but I think that Vance falls into this too. This is really the reason that the Trump-Vance thing is starting to get me excited. I'm going to go back to Charles Haywood here, the one and only guest so far, the exclusive and only guest we've ever had on Caucus. Although we're going to change that, we got to go after some more people. It's just
Vance follows Charles Haywood.
I
on
know.
Twitter. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So JD Vance follows Charles Haywood on Twitter.
He follows a lot of interesting people on Twitter.
That's the thing. Who JD Vance seems to follow are not just political talking heads, but I would call them philosophical commentators. People like Charles Haywood, who, you know, he has his opinions about politics, but he doesn't care to be Sean Hannity light and hop on and make 24/7 cable news happy. Charles Haywood likes to think about things outside the box that the rest of us are conditioned to think of them in. Thank you, 24/7, cable news cycle is terrible. But one thing that really interests me is we've talked about it. We talked about it with Haywood. We've talked about it outside of that, the rise of Caesarism. So, and we were just having this conversation in the hallway before we got started, the factions of the right wing. And I don't remember where I saw this. Someone just defined the left wing and the right wing. We know what the left is. This authoritarian statism. You could call it Marxist, but these are all different versions of the same thing. Humanism is the religion. Statism is the politics. This defines the left. The right is literally anything not that. It's the other half of the spectrum, in which there is great variety, but there's the other half. On the right, and I'm increasingly believing this, there really are three different factions, and we don't have to get into the whole conversation we had in the hallway, although you would love it. It was fascinating. Maybe that's one of those exclusive things we'll figure out in the future. But I really do think that there are three different factions. There's the globalist, the neocon, right wing. There's the national populist right wing. Those both more describe economics than anything else. And then there are the social or evangelical, and I mean, honestly, I'm not even going to say evangelical anymore, because I feel like conservative Catholicism is on the rise, and typically evangelical is a term that means Protestants. Like I find that politically, that's how that definition goes. They're talking about the giant Protestant denominations. But I would say the Christendom, social conservative folks, this is their primary thing. National populism economically is their primary thing. Neocons, or the globalist free trader primary, economic principles. Those three factions exist. Long have we needed to ditch the neocon side that has been driving the bus and switch to national populism. Trump has been that move, and I think Vance follows that move. But the interesting thing is looking at our constitutional system and removing the deep state, returning power to the people. That is a huge proposition. And I think that Haywood and a lot of other people are right on the money when they talk about the fact that that is going to require not destroying the system and remaking it, but someone is going to have to operate outside the system to do what needs to be done to rid our government of deep state Marxists, of these statist, slavering authoritarians. Someone's going to have to do what needs to be done. And if they've already suspended the Constitution, essentially, someone's going to have to operate outside of that to correct the order and then hand order back to the people. A Caesar. And thus we start talking about Caesarism. For the first time, I feel like I see that possibility on the horizon. I felt like I understand that conceptually, but I'm not sure we have anyone that would do that, that could do that, that even if we had the players around that could do that, the reality of it happening, I'm not sure. I mean, you remember Saturday night when I texted you?
Yes,
I do. The very first thing, you sent me a tweet, I sent you a tweet or something like that, and then one of us shared the picture. Now, the iconic picture, which is my background on everything everywhere, Trump with his fist in the air and the flag behind him, blood streaked on his face. And my mind could only think of that reference, so I just texted him, "Hail Caesar." And I mean, I'm not advocating we set up Trump as a king or an emperor at all. But in my mind, I look at it and go, this might be it. This may be the moment where someone rises above the system, gets rid of all the baddies, it just routs the deep state completely. Or maybe the beginning of that process. And then order is restored and handed back to we the people, the sovereigns, because we the people have for so long allowed these folks in. I mean, you leave your house to fumigate it, and then you come back into your house and order is maintained. I can think of all the analogies in the world. But that's part of what's getting me excited, is because I really do see, like so many people go, yeah, but how can we do this? Like, there's no way to actually undo what has been done. It's over. And I'm like, it's not over. It's not. It's just going to take something that is kind of uncomfortable for those of us who are limited government folks. Typically, it's going to take something. Is limited government your most fundamental principle, or is governing morally and inside natural order the most fundamental principle? And I answer the latter, which means at times limited government is important. But if we have gone so far off course on this more foundational one, if limited government goes away for a while and we clean house and then it's reinstituted, I don't know how else we fix anything.
Yeah.
And I see a Trump-Vance ticket as a window into that possibility. Maybe they're not the ones that do it. Maybe it's people later. But we're finally having that conversation, and the right is steering the bus in that direction. And that direction brings us back to the Constitution, brings us back to the American founding, which is why I feel like we are at the moment, we are at a 1776 moment. I'm excited about Trump-Vance for that reason.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking for a while that I don't think Trump is the Caesar. I think Trump is the path. Trump is the clearing of the path for the Caesar.
I would tend to agree with that.
And how familiar are you with the work of Curtis Yarvin?
I know the name, but I'm not very familiar with the work.
Well, you better familiarize yourself because Vance is very familiar.
Okay.
And this is, for those unaware, Curtis Yarvin is a ex-programmer turned just originally anonymous internet blogger way back, way back, and way back in internet time, so like a decade ago, under the pen name Mencius Moldbug, writing about these very, I guess, Machiavellian concepts of the way we should evaluate government, and kind of coming from like a post-libertarian direction, which so did Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was very libertarian before he took his more recent Machiavellian / Schmittian turn. And Yarvin is kind of similar in that way, that he had this big series called An Open Letter to Open-Minded Progressives. But one of his main points is, okay, we need an executive that's going to act like an executive and essentially just clean house, clean up the entire deep state. And Vance has his phone number. He's very familiar with Yarvin's work, and I think he's ready to start instituting these decisive actions that will restore proper state power, not the oppressive anarcho-tyranny state power that we experience today, but rather state power that actually reflects the will of an individual aiming towards a certain goal. And I think that's a major thing. I mean, I think that having JD Vance as vice president is going to blast open the Overton window in ways that we are not prepared for. And we are going to be able to introduce new and refreshing and maybe somewhat dangerous ideas in the way that we handle the regime and move forward.
And I think you're not wrong. What name give us a Twitter handle that we can all follow for this. Or does he not have a Twitter handle?
Curtis Yarvin, nope, never been on Twitter.
Okay, cool.
He has a Substack.
Spell the last name then.
Curtis, Curtis, Yarvin, Yarvin.
Curtis Yarvin Substack. Everyone Google it now or later. I understand. Gray Mirror, graymirror.substack.com. That's one to keep an eye on.
I think his best stuff is his old stuff, though.
I just subscribed.
If you look up Unqualified Reservations is his old blog before his, that's where a lot of his foundational ideas come from. Yeah, it's still, you can find unqualified-reservations.org.
Got it. I see that too.
That's the archive. That's what you want to read. There are...
By Mencius Moldbug.
That was his pseudonym back in the day. But there's probably about 1,000 pages of very interesting stuff that you can get into on there.
Cool. Well, there you go. I've got a lot of resources. And here I came to this prepared to offer, not to take, but I'm taking. This is why we have these conversations for the first time in front of you. Like, I'm not going to... This morning was a normal Thursday morning. Walked in, we're having a conversation in the hallway. Mason walks in the door and just almost like, nope, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you about this. I don't want to talk about anything because we're going to save this. So we haven't talked about a lot of these things so that everyone can get an opportunity to talk about it.
I talked to Gwen about some of these things, but as soon as you came over, I was like, I'm shutting up now. You know, I don't spoil our discussions.
Yes, exactly. We keep the caucus sacred as much as we can. As much as we can. And then we just dump the links in and try to figure it out. So, Biden, out or not?
I have no idea.
Biden's totally gone. Mark my words.
Okay.
I've made my bold predictions already.
$5?
No, I'm right. I don't need to bet with you.
Okay, well, if you're right, put your money where your mouth is.
I
forgot you're a.
I'll get you a T-shirt.
You're a Baptist, so
I'm a teetotaler when it comes to gambling.
I
I also just think it's dumb. That said, no, I watch the predictive markets though, and Polymarket and everything else. Joe Biden has gone down like a rock, and these are more, in my mind, the betting markets are the predicted Polymarket kind of betting markets are way more recognizable patterns than polls,
and my buddy just doubled down.
accurate.
He went down like a rock, and my buddy bought in the maximum on a second account.
On Biden?
On Biden staying the nominee.
See, here's the deal. I think that Biden's out. I think that now Chuck Schumer, like that was the thing. At the beginning of the week, 20-something like rural House Democrats no one's ever heard of or cares about had called for Biden to exit the race. And then this week, Adam Schiff says it's time for him to go. Yesterday, we find out Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries said it's time for him to consider it. Today, Obama is against him. They are all coming out. It's over. So for him to have said something about maybe a medical reason, and then all of a sudden he gets COVID and he's going to Delaware, he's toast. I tell you, he's toast. We will know by what they do with this July 21st call that's supposed to happen, the roll call, because they're doing the virtual convention thing ahead of the August convention in Chicago, which isn't going to happen because it's too dangerous, because of Ohio and all the ballot things. Mark my words, Joe Biden is gone. The only question to me is Kamala Harris going to get the nod as the nominee and we find a new VP? Yeah. Or are they just going to ditch it and go for a whole new ticket altogether?
I have no idea. Because
I don't know about that one.
I told you like the day after the debate, I think that if they put anybody else in, that's the end of their political career.
I tend to agree with that as well. I think that whoever the Democrats select at the top of the ticket, not the vice presidential position, you've got some plausible deniability. Well, I wasn't the top of the ticket.
Yeah.
This doesn't ruin my political career. Whoever they select for the top of the ticket is going to be the sacrificial lamb this year. They know they're not going to make it. They know that their political reputation is going to be damaged moving forward. But it has to be someone who has enough name ID and credibility and money to be able to make it a decent-looking campaign over the next 4 weeks. That's why I think that they're probably going to sacrifice Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Maybe Gavin Newsom, because frankly, I know we've talked about him being the heir apparent, but he's too well known. Everyone knows he's just a terrible leftist. So they're not going to take him, but he has enough money and name ID to mount a respectable-looking campaign. But I think who they don't want to hurt are some of their Midwestern governors, Southern governors, Whitmer, Josh Shapiro. I'll even throw him in there. Fun thing for me, Andy Beshear of Kentucky. There are a lot of names out there that they don't have as much name ID, but this might be the opportunity to install them as a Veep choice on the ticket. Get them the name ID, but they don't have the crippling destruction to their political credibility that comes like would happen to the top of the ticket. I think that's why you'll probably see, I've heard Roger Stone say Josh Shapiro too. After I said Josh Shapiro, I didn't get that one from him, by the way. To be clear, I saw that after I said Josh Shapiro's name, or someone did, or Andy Beshear. We don't repeat everything. We do have original ideas. I think that's what's going to happen, though. I think you're going to see them install someone who's a terrible known, we all can't stand them person, and that person is going to just drop like a rock and die this year because they know they've lost to Trump. They cannot, at this point, there are too many eyes on, and there's too many every Republican voting situations. I don't think they can cheat to get over the top. And I think they know that they can't. So they have to sacrifice someone who's not really a potential in the future, and they have to start setting up the next person to take down in 2028, whoever it is. Whether it's JD Vance or if someone else, meteoric rise, whatever. They've got to have someone there. And that's going to be a Gretchen Whitmer, maybe an Andy Beshear, a Josh Shapiro, someone like that. That's what I think. Biden's out, though. I'm confident of that at this point. I can't imagine a situation where they let him get to the ballot in November.
I have absolutely no idea. Well, okay, but he's also already locked in on some ballots.
Doesn't matter.
But they've already let him get to the ballots in November.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter. There's something. There's a plan somewhere. Are you kidding?
We'll see.
Did you see what they all did in 2020 and just randomly decided different election policy? I say random. Yeah. It wasn't random at all. It was very purposefully released from a lab in Wuhan. I've seen the lengths at which they'll go to. For crying out loud, they just tried to kill their opponent.
That's true.
What do you think they're not going to do?
I think that they're going to try to do a lot of things, but I do not think that these are competent people. So I think they're going to fail this year, really, either way.
I'd say so. And I do, by the way, I see here someone on Rumble bringing up Bill Clinton was a throwaway candidate, although he did get into the race at a normal time, they admit. But they didn't expect him to run a race. I don't know. Of course, also, that was Bill Clinton, in my opinion, is a totally different situation because we had a terrible Republican who broke his promises and he was terrible, following the heels of a fantastic Republican who everyone loved. And they, the deep state, who are we talking about? The DNC, yeah. The Democrat National Committee, which is the political arm of the deep state right now in America. I would put those two together. The RNC would talk less about how old, feeble, and beatable Joe is, wasted energy talking about it, and need much more conversation about the Democrat platform. Well, that's true. I don't disagree with the Romney diss is the best endorsement ever for Vance.
True.
It's true. It's true. The list of people who hate Vance makes me love him more. James David and Donald John.
I like it. Very American sounding names.
DJT and JDV.
Neat.
You never know.
Well, I think we should. We've been going a while.
We have been going a while. We should probably wrap it up.
We should remind everybody, though, we are on a new channel now. This week we're on the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles channel still, but we're not going to do that forever. We have a dedicated Unauthorized Caucus channel. And I see that most people have been over on the Unauthorized Caucus channel today. I've been monitoring the view numbers, and I saw that most people went over there. But in the future, you are going to miss Caucus if you are not on the Unauthorized Caucus channel. So I've pasted the link in the chat again if you're on the Phyllis Schlafly channel. Go check that out. Go follow that page. Make sure you're signed up to our email list. We're on Substack now. We've got, is it unauthorizedcaucus.substack?
Right, unauthorizedcaucus.com goes to our Substack. Go there.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Unauthorizedcaucus.com goes to the Substack. It's got all the links. You'll get yourself back over to Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. You'll find yourself back over to the Pro America Report. It's all cross-linked everywhere. But don't move away from any of your subscriptions on the Phyllis Schlafly stuff. This is just running alongside it, not instead of it. But if you want Caucus, it's not going to be there anymore. It's going to be on the Caucus channel specifically because the big stream of stuff that's coming from Phyllis Schlafly here, literally today and tomorrow, is going to be a lot. So it's moving over. We'll go concurrently probably for another week or two, but then it's going to be completely over to Unauthorized Caucus. So keep track of it all there. Go to unauthorizedcaucus.com. Go to trexinc.com and use your Caucus15 promo code for 15% off and some sweet t-shirts. I saw people sending their favorites already. Also hoodies. I see some kid stuff starting to come up and some things. On the mug front, we don't have a mug club. That's already taken. Am I allowed to say that or am I going to get sued for that?
Mug club?
Yeah, the mug club.
I don't even know what that is.
We won't talk about it. It's he who shall not be named. I'll tell you off the air. You know what I'm talking about. But that's all we've got for today. Go to unauthorizedcaucus.com, sign up for all of the goodies and the thingies, and thank our sponsor for being a sponsor. We will talk to you next Thursday. Yeah, there's nothing going on next Thursday. That 4th of July threw me that there was a holiday on a Thursday. It was terrible. All right, folks. We'll talk to you next week. If it's Thursday and it's noon,
it's Caucus time.